Okay, so I have right here the first stone we're going to talk about, Lemurian quartz. I have both a polished piece and a raw piece, and I'll explain both and give you some details as to why this stone is so special. So we'll start off with the raw piece. This is what it's going to look like. This is a really big one, but what you want to look out for is what's called the muso habit growth. So it's not a perfect hexagon shape, and some of them are more kind of pointy and coney. Like, it's just the way it tips out. The crystal will point really into a fine shape with 3 distinct sides. But not every Lemurian will have that, but a decent amount will have that feature. Now, another thing to look for is the striated lines. I'll try to get it on camera. Where's the side? Okay, this side. So here at the top, you'll see the striated lines. When trying to identify a Lemurian quartz, like I said, you want to look for the muso habit growth and the striated lines. Lemurian quartz comes from Brazil, Colombia, and some pieces are coming out of Russia. Energetically and metaphysically, it's not too different from regular quartz, so it does have that master healer capabilities. There will be some Lemurians that have different inclusions, like there are lithium, it's Moqui quartz Lemurians. Very rarely will you find a citrine Lemurian, but for the most part, it's mostly going to be a quartz type of piece. Now, also with the Lemurian quartz, so when you're working with it and holding it, it's going to be a little bit of a different experience than regular quartz. So you can either hold it in your receiving hand or your sending hand. Personally, I would recommend holding it in both first and holding it over your heart space. And this will help you allow to connect the stone in a more intimate way. But once you feel that firm connection with your stone, what you're going to want to do is whatever dominant hand or whatever hand you feel comfortable with, you're going to take it, hold it, and then with your thumb, you're going to rub your thumb on those striated lines. And these lines act as codes for each crystal. Some are called star berries or star libraries, and there's different things in each one, and as you work and collect with Lemurian quartz, you're going to find different things out about whatever things you may be working with, whether it's the Akashic records, or if you're trying to do Reiki, or just do some shadow work. These are really good stones for those things. Now, when it comes to the polished pieces, you need to make sure you get something from a trusted, reliable source. Any quartz could be polished and said to be Lemurian. But the Lemurian quartzes that I've come across that have been polished, there is a very distinct energetic signature. I can only describe it as light, but just holding a polished piece compared to a regular Lemurian quartz, this feels like something's coming out of it. And because of its cut and polish, it feels like it's emanating throughout the entire crystal. But in summary, it's good for all chakras. It can be programmed for anything you really desire it to be. Personally, I like to just leave the stones as is and not really program them unless I'm doing grid work. But just the experience that I've had with Lemurian quartz versus regular quartz has been drastic. But I wanted you to get a good view, so here's the polished piece. It's got a really nice fine rainbow on that side. And then here's my Big Mama Lemurian. So next up, we will talk about the Moqui marbles. These come from Utah. They're a few million years old. I can't remember the exact date at this moment, but I do have it on my post on Instagram. But these should come in a pair. It's not always going to be able to be found in a pair, so you will have to look and search and find a pair for yourself. These two I did not get at the same time. I got them probably, I think, like 3 years apart. But I got them back when they were fairly priced, so if you are looking for a pair, you will have to pay more, and they are more expensive now because they are illegal to obtain in today's times. But this is the male stone, and it kind of looks like Saturn, so you want to look for that kind of ridge and oblong shape, but still kind of spherical. And the more rounded ones carry the feminine energy, and the best way to work with them is hold one in each hand while you're meditating. They work with DNA activation, Kundalini activation, psychic abilities. They're good for more grounding, because what this is made out of is hematite or iron oxide, and the inside is a concrete sandstone. So if you cut it in half, you'd be able to see the outer shell of what I'm talking about, the hematite, and then you'd see the concrete sandstone, which is a lot more pale. Kind of looks like that wall. So just imagine the wall's color inside this, and you have a good representation of what I'm talking about. Now, Moqui marbles have really helped me with my meditation practices. I don't do traditional meditation anymore, but when I did, I had a lot of really good experiences, and I could physically feel the energy going into my body through these stones. I forgot to mention it, but these are great stones for balancing the yin and yang energy within the body. Third stone on the list that we will talk about today, and so I'm not flipping you guys off, I'll take it off, but here is lapis lazuli. It took a very long time for me to find a decent stone. This is probably my first real lapis that I got, that I considered genuine. It was not cheap, but that's because of the cut, the polish, and who made it, and where I got it. But you can find more obtainable pieces, and if you are looking for lapis, make sure it comes from Afghanistan or Pakistan, around that area. I'm pretty sure it's Afghanistan that has the best lapis lazuli. But I really recommend getting a polished piece, a small tumbled polished piece to work and start out with for your journey. You can get it rough, but it's not as appealing as when it's polished. The higher grade stuff will look like this in its rough, natural form, but when it's polished, it's more exuberant, and it just displays, and it gives better energy, in my opinion. And so if you're not familiar with lapis lazuli, what it is it's comprised of 3 main minerals. So it's more of a rock, in a sense, or a metamorphic rock, but it has lazurite with some pyrite that focuses. And this one doesn't have it because it's a higher quality piece, but the lower end pieces will have like a gray kind of white calcite inside of it. And working with lapis, the Egyptians saw it as a royal stone. This is why I purchased and obtained a really nice piece for myself, because of that connection that the Egyptians associated with this stone. When I first got this ring, I was instantly protected by a lot of forces that were jealous of my possessions. And karma came back and hit them very fast. And when working with lapis, the best mentality to keep in mind with this specific stone is that it's a stone of truth. It's a stone of communication, and it's a stone of psychic power and development. Because of the pyrite, the association that I feel is most accurate with pyrite is not wealth or abundance, but with the facilitation of new ideas, because pyrite works very well with the mind, even though it's a lower chakra stone. And since we were on the topic of pyrite, let's go ahead and continue with the next one. Covellite. Covellite, as you see, has bands of bands of pyrite, but in this state, because of its growth pattern, or I might not be saying the exact word right, it's a little bit early still, but the exhibited growth that it displays makes it healer's gold. So if you're interested in healer's gold, keep in mind that this is more in tune with healer's gold, but it's the same thing as regular pyrite. It's just where and how it's coming out of the ground. So these are both polished pieces. I do not have a raw piece of Covellite, and I'll explain why. Not that I've not been able to obtain a piece, but the pieces that I've come across are very, very expensive. They're not something I personally feel comfortable working with for any type of crystal healing purposes. So I recommend you getting a polished piece. I have a cab, and I have a polished nugget. So this one comes from Montana, and as you see in the light, it has a more magenta metallic luster with blue tones. I'm 90% certain this piece came from Brazil due to the fact that it's more matted and dull in its metallic appearance. I mean, you could tell it's kind of shiny, and it has that same kind of effect, but not nearly as much as the Montana Covellite. So just keep in mind, Montana Covellite is the cream of the crop. It's the best of the best. Not the easiest to obtain, but you can find it, as I have. And this is actually a gift from someone. This I found in Sedona at a special shop, and I got it fairly priced. It was like $3 or $5. It was really cheap. So just keep that in mind when you're wanting and looking for a piece of Covellite. The more accessible pieces and the ones that are more on the market will be from Peru. And last but not least, one of my favorite crystals to work with for many, many reasons, Danburite. Danburite is said to be connected to the angelic realm, but as someone that doesn't work with angels, I find that it works very well with spirit communication in general. It does activate the higher chakras, and it is a very high vibration stone. I'll flip the camera around and I'll show you some features about this crystal that make it really unique. So here we are in the light. This isn't the most pristine specimen. It is really nice. I absolutely love and adore it, but as far as the crystallography and the crystalline structure, what you want to look for is this main face. It's gonna be kind of diamond tipped and kind of topaz shaped, most Danburites you come across. If I can get the reflective lens, there we go. It almost looks like the Superman sigil on his chest. So it has that diamond shape going towards the bottom, and then it has a different type of growth where it has the line, a more protruding line, and then because this one's not perfect in terms of crystallography, it got cut off at the edge. So if you want a more pristine piece, look out for that Superman sign on the front face of the crystal. But Danburite is definitely one that you're going to want to work with in its raw form. This is what it looks like raw if you weren't aware, but it's a very strong crystal. It's very durable, so you can put it in your medicine bag without worrying too much about it breaking or chipping. It might scratch a little bit, but I believe it's an 8 on the most hardness scale. So it's pretty tough. It's one of the more tougher gemstones. And depending on the clarity of the quality and the size, it might be fairly priced. This, I think, was like $35 when I got it, and that's a really good price for a piece like this. Most people will charge about that much for a piece this size, and it just depends on who's sourcing it and who's selling it. That will ultimately determine its price. I don't feel you should be spending more than $50 on a piece like this, though. And I'll just quickly mention Danburite. When you're working with it like this and a bigger polished or biggest regular natural stone, this is something more for grid work. Or if you have a nice piece like this, you can use it for Reiki, psychic surgery, your own chakra healing balance meditations. Hold it in your hands. Personally, I would recommend working with this on the throat up. This is supposed to be a pink Danburite. They do come in a few colors, I should mention that. So this looks more clear, but it's quote unquote a pink Danburite. There are pink Danburites, so keep that in mind. It's a more rare and a more obscure type of Danburite. There's one called Agni Danburite, and that, I can't remember where it comes from. It's not nearly as prismatic and shaped like this type of Danburite that comes from Mexico, but there are also some that come out of some of Russia. So I've only come across a few pieces on the internet, and I have one in my collection. I don't have it here with me, but the Agni Danburite is more of just, imagine something along the lines of this shape, but really rough on the edges, more of a stony look, and it's golden. And that's one I had a long time ago. I lost it, but that I need to get another one. But that pretty much sums up my recap video for the first of my Ascension Stone series. So if you weren't familiar, this is the second installment video, but the first with the recap. If you want to go back and see the original Ascension Stones and what the concept is behind what it is that I'm doing, check out the first video. It's called Ascension Stones, Chapter 1, the Book of Gaia. Or not the book, the Gift of Gaia. But I'll go ahead and cut things off here. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested, make sure you subscribe, comment, and like. That really helps my channel, and it really helps me stay motivated to make this content for you guys. But as always, I hope you stay blessed. May you blessed be. Draco Hic sunt.